What's going on, guys? Welcome back to The Commodity. I'm Fez, and today we're taking a look at if the U.S. and China go to war, who loses? I was searching for videos to react to, and this popped up, and I was like, this is a great question. I would love to take a look at it just out of curiosity. I think everybody loses if we were to go to war with each other. We use them for manufacturing, price-wise. We're going to have to deal with major inflation just because we're manufacturing stuff here in the U.S. and manufacturing in the U.S. is extremely expensive. But let's go ahead and take a look at this. If you want to suggest any videos, link to the Discord is going to be down here. That would be the description. Same for the gaming channel down here. I will also put the Discord up here as well. But let's go ahead and jump into this. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video.
Coast of the Philippines. That right there is the South China Sea, and we're watching the U.S. and Filipino militaries conduct live fire exercises. It's part of the largest ever combined combat exercises between the U.S. military and the armed forces of the Philippines. For 125 years, the Philippines has been crucial to U.S. interests in the Pacific. And now, amid rising tensions with China, the Philippines has agreed to let more American troops into the country.
If that war comes, we're going to be prepared to execute it if we have to.
Diba, nasa kabilang panig sila ng daigdig eh. Diba? Anong pakialam nila dapat dito? Wala sila dapat pakialam dito.
I traveled here.
All right, we're getting on this boat.
To learn what a surge of U.S. troops means for the lives of Filipinos.
Ito ay isang gera hindi na matutupad sa US. Ito po ay isang gera na hindi mangyayari dito sa China. Ang gera po ito ay mangyayari sa Pilipinas.
And how the effects of U.S. colonization are still reverberating today.
Hey, San Antonio! I didn't know y'all had one. I may have, I just don't remember.
A Patriot missile launch is a very loud thing. Loud and forceful.
Hopefully, you'll never forget hearing the sound of a Patriot missile going off. Patriot missiles are big, they can be expensive, but they're absolutely lethal.
I'm at a naval base on the South China Sea at this year's Balikatan, the annual combined military exercises between the U.S. and the Philippines. Balikatan means shoulder to shoulder in Tagalog, and the 2-week-long training is meant to strengthen ties between the longtime allies. More than 12,000 American troops are in the country for this year's exercises, which include drills like shooting down target drones over the South China Sea.
You can tell folks are pretty proud of the results of their hard work and what they got to do today.
But the star of today's exercise is this, the Patriot, the Army's most advanced air defense system, designed to shoot down enemy missiles. Today was the first time it was ever fired in the Philippines.
It's absolutely amazing that we've done it. Just the physical act of doing it itself is a tremendous readiness benefit.
I hear the word preparedness and readiness.
So before we get too far into this, let me know, if you're from the Philippines, what your opinion is of the U.S. military being there. It's your country, not mine. I'm not going to take anything to offense. If you hate us there, then say it. That's fine with me. It's your country. I understand. However, let's say hypothetically a war does happen. What do you think the odds of China invading the Philippines would be? I personally think it would be high. Mainly because the U.S. is also in Australia. So I feel like countries are going to be, it's going to be an opportunity for these countries to be invaded. So, but that's just an opinion. It's not fact. I don't know. I just want to get your opinion on it.
A lot. What are you guys getting ready for?
Well, you know, our job as soldiers is to be prepared to fight and win our nation's wars if required to do so.
This year's Balikatan is happening amid rising tensions between the U.S. and China, as the two superpowers vie for dominance in the Pacific. There are basically two things the U.S. says it's worried about when it comes to China in the Pacific. First, there's China's sweeping claims over the South China Sea, parts of which Filipinos call the West Philippine Sea. It's a vast, important waterway that's rich in oil, gas, and fisheries. For years, China has been entering waters claimed by the Philippines. The U.S. says it's prepared to come to its allies' defense.
The United States remains ironclad in our commitment to to the defense of the Philippines, including the South China Sea.
And then there's Taiwan, the nearby island that has been independently governed for decades, despite China's claim to it. China has warned it will treat any moves by the Taiwanese to claim independence as grounds for an invasion. The U.S. officially recognizes Taiwan as part of China. But despite that, President Biden has said the U.S. would come to Taiwan's defense.
U.S. forces, U.S. men and women, would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion.
Yes.
Against the backdrop of all this, and just a few weeks before the
If they're willing to take over Taiwan, what are the odds of them not wanting to take over any other country? That's the way I look at it. And that was a definitive answer. That wasn't him, well, if. It's basically him saying, yes, we, like, no questions, no stuttering, no stammering, no beating around the bush. Just if they decide to go at any country, basically, is the way I take that, we stand by them, especially if they're, their allies. Now, if they try to take over North Korea, I don't know. I don't know how they would react to that.
The combined exercises, the Philippines announced it will allow the U.S. military to expand its footprint. That means there could soon be the largest number of American troops here in 30 years.
Ginagawa lamang natin ay patuloy natin na pinapatibay natin ang depensa ng ating teritoryo, ang pagdepensa ng Republika.
It's an expansion of an existing mutual defense treaty from 2014 known as EDCA. EDCA initially granted American troops access to these 5 Philippine bases. Now, the U.S. will have access to 4 more bases, conveniently, mostly located facing either Taiwan or the South China Sea. Chinese leaders see this and other recent actions by the U.S. as provocation.
如果美方不踩刹车，继续沿着错误的道路狂飙下去，脱轨翻车，陷入对抗冲突。
What message do you think these exercises and firing a Patriot missile, what message do you think this is sending?
I promise you, they don't want smoke. They don't. I don't agree with the amount of money that we spend on our military and but there is benefit to it. So you don't want smoke.
To China.
Regardless if it's China or others, I hope that this demonstrates that we are training, we are prepared to operate with a range of partners and allies. If called to do so, we're going to send Patriot missiles downrange, and we're going to do it at the direction of others.
Since we returned from the Philippines, the U.S. and China have engaged in high-level talks in an attempt to stabilize ties. But the military told us that doesn't change their readiness plans.
Winnie the Pooh.
Another first for Balikatan was this: the bombing and sinking of a mock enemy ship in the South China Sea, a spectacle recorded on military surveillance drone.
Good hit.
On the same day, I traveled 50 miles up the coast of where this bombing was happening to meet with locals who oppose such war games.
They are not welcome here. This is our country. This is not just a battlefield for practice, for wars.
I'm on a boat with a group of local Filipino fisher folk who are protesting the increased U.S. military presence here in the Philippines, saying it's directly impacting their livelihood.
Again, I understand it's your country.
They've been banned from fishing in the sea for several days during Balikatan, a significant setback considering fisher folk are the poorest segment of Philippine society.
Ang aming pagtutol ay hindi lang naman sa Balikatan, kung hindi yung pinagmumula ng Balikatan. Dapat ang EDCA ay i-review o kaya naman ay abolish na dahil hindi naman ito tugon sa kahirapan, sa krisis ng mangisda, sa krisis ng Pilipinas.
But while these military drills are a temporary setback for the fisher folk, it's estimated that over the last few years, some have lost 70% of their income due to not being able to fish because of consistent Chinese intrusion into their waters.
Kung sa aming mga mangisda, ang kagyat naming problema, yung panggigipit sa amin ng mga Chino.
In that sense, do you feel like the U.S. military being here is protecting you from China?
No. Ang U.S. ang magiging dahilan para lalo kaming gipitin ng China. Kasi kapag na-trigger ang isa't isa sa kanila, ang Pilipinas ang madadamay. Madudurog po ang Pilipinas, madudurog ang buhay ng mamamayang Pilipino, masisira ang ating kalikasan.
Our sovereignty, our freedom, our democracy, our lives, our natural resources are affected by all this.
But recent surveys show that actually, a majority of Filipinos do side with the U.S. over China, a sentiment we repeatedly heard from people throughout the country.
I want U.S. military here in the Philippines.
The U.S. military has historically poured millions into the local economy and provided tens of thousands of jobs. That's significant in a country where almost 1/5 of the population lives under the poverty threshold.
Philippines-U.S. relationship is good.
For the past centuries, it's the United States that's been there for us.
But let's unpack that. Because many Filipinos, like those who were protesting outside the country's Department of National Defense the day Balikatan started, say the U.S. has historically exploited the Philippines.
Kasi ayaw namin na ma-sweep na lang under the rug. In all but name, the Philippines is a neo-colony of the United States.
In 1898, the Philippines became one of the first U.S. colonies after being purchased from Spain for $20 million following the Spanish-American War. The U.S. wanted the archipelago nation for its natural resources and strategic location in the Pacific. The U.S. had promised the Philippines its freedom in exchange for helping them defeat Spain. But
I think that goes to this situation as well. Now, just hear me out. I mean, again, you don't have to agree. I could be completely wrong too. But even during World War II, countries were strategically invaded in negative ways by many countries, like to the point where they were wanting to kind of take over the country. And I believe the U.S. were in the Philippines during the World War II. But if, let's say we are further down, let's say we're in a different country south of the Philippines, and we were trying to go to war. If we're just in the water south of the Philippines, let alone in the Philippines, and strategically, let's say we were going to war with China or Russia or whatever the case may be, it's a game of chess. They're going to move their pawns across the water and into the Philippines or another country. Or we could do that ahead of time and be there already. And could that location is fantastic for the Philippines and also very negative for the Philippines. So I just don't personally see a way around it. If conflict were to happen, especially with Taiwan being invaded and all that kind of stuff. Just imagine if you're from the Philippines, just imagine if the Philippines were if they were the Taiwan, the country of Taiwan, and they were being invaded. Just imagine how that looks. So, it's a hard conversation to have. I understand.
the U.S. broke that promise and instead occupied the islands and waged a brutal war that killed an estimated 200,000 Filipino civilians. What came next was what President William McKinley called benevolent assimilation. American school teachers were sent en masse to the Philippines and set up a public school system that taught English and American history. In 1946, after almost 50 years, the Philippines gained its independence. But with freedom came a caveat, that the U.S. could continue to station its military there rent-free. Throughout the 20th century, the U.S. military used the Philippines as a launching pad to conflicts like the Korean and Vietnam Wars. Subic Bay Naval Station and Clark Air Base became two of the largest American overseas military bases. They also became the sites of untold environmental tragedies and seedy red light districts that contributed to the abuse of Filipino women.
We have seen and have heard about the stories of women who have been raped and murdered because of American soldiers who want to experience pleasure after their work.
By 1991, anti-U.S.
people have used that argument here in the States for immigrants as well. But in our situation, I don't know if it's the same there. There are crappy people that are from here, and there are crappy people that are from other countries. For us to blame an entire different culture for, like, former President Trump would say, people from Mexico come over and they're bad because they might murder or kill or do this or do that. But we have famous murderers like Ted Bundy and famous killers like Bonnie and Clyde. They're from here. So do you think that's a fair enough argument? Because is there anybody that kills in the Philippines that are Filipino? Does that make sense? I mean, yeah, people see it, and then that makes it really easy to argue your point. But I don't think it's a fair argument no matter where you're at, because there are terrible people that are locals and there's terrible people that are immigrants. Doesn't matter what country you're in. It's just the way it is. And you can argue it one way or the other, but the argument can always turn on you as well, at least here in the States.
Protests had ramped up, and the Philippine Senate voted not to renew the U.S. military's lease, shutting down the bases. But various treaties signed by the two countries in later years kept the U.S. presence alive, but at a fraction of its former size. American troops today train at a handful of bases managed by the armed forces of the Philippines. And now, with the new agreement, they'll be allowed at more. I'm about to call up the governor of one of the northernmost provinces here in the Philippines, where the U.S. military will be accessing 2 new bases. And he's been quite vocal against these plans.
I've always been against foreign military forces in the country. There are no winners in war.
Manuel Mamba is the governor of Cagayan province, which is just 250 miles from Taiwan. Even though he was against the EDCA expansion, his province will still see more U.S. troops. What's the worst case scenario?
And when military equipments will be placed in my province, that would be a magnet if and when war would erupt.
What is your province's relationship to China?
We never had problems with them. And in every major city and major town here, we have Chinese communities. They have always been part of us too.
Couldn't the presence of the U.S. military be an economic boon to your province?
Well, there's no denying it could, but I see a bigger boon with reconnecting with the market itself. China had this unprecedented growth in the economy in the last 40 years. We have never been part of it, despite the fact that we're nearest to them. Opportunities are not with us. Food is...
Believe it or not, their major boom was because of the U.S. We spend more money there than anywhere other country. In fact, I want to say we probably spend more money there than even China does to grow their businesses, because of cost of labor is so low, and the country doesn't care about labor laws and all that kind of stuff. I think they've changed a little bit, but they used to let anybody work, whether you were a 5-year, old enough to physically do the job, you were allowed to do the job. They didn't have any labor laws. The U.S. is very tight labor laws. So yes, that boom, but it came with a cost. And I don't think the Philippines want to go through that as well. They just see people in general just see the benefit of it, but it had a lot of negatives. And I know Thailand's going through it. I know Malaysia's going through it. I know Indonesia's going through it, because you can see it on our clothes. You can see it on our items that we buy from the store. A lot of it's built there in Southeast Asia. I do not see a lot of Filipino stuff, which I think that's a good thing. Yes, people make money, but it comes with a cost, and the cost is with lives and stress and young people working too young to work. I'd rather see people be able to be safe and grow to be old and not lose fingers or limbs just to manufacture something for somebody that's not even in your country. Let me know what your thoughts are on that as well.
Taxi cars. I'm also trying to seek out what's the best for our country.
I spoke to a Filipino governor in the north in Cagayan province that's closest to Taiwan, and he's opposed to increased U.S. military presence there because he says we have no problems with China, and if anything, this sort of makes us a target. How do you respond to that?
Well, I won't respond to that directly. I just respond to it that we don't come here absent the invitation from our partners. We're here at the invitation and with intent for a long-standing treaty ally partner.
Why is it important for the U.S. to be in this region in the first place?
A free and Indo-Pacific is important to us in the United States. It's just like it's important to a lot of folks, to include the Philippines here. So our presence, our opportunity to exercise, our ability to do things together matters in pursuit of keeping it free and open.
How do you respond to the voices that say President Marcos invited the U.S. military here and there's a lot to be gained from the United States, like safety?
That's a total lie. That's a complete lie. I mean, the U.S. has always been here since 1901. If you want to help us get out of our territory, off our own land, off our own seas, off our own women.
Were we really there in 1901? We weren't even a superpower back then. We were barely existing at that point. I mean, it could be true, but I'm just amazed by that. Like, we were not what we were, what we are even post World War II, let alone post World War I.
Get out of our country, my goodness, you're not helping us at all.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. What do you think of a greater U.S. military foot?
Yeah, let me know. I'm curious of all these questions. I honestly, answer for me. Let me know down in the comments. Were we actually here in 1901 or there rather? Because that kind of intrigues me more than anything. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification. Link to the Discord is down in the description, as well as the gaming channel. And until next time,